Okay, so today I'm going to talk again about Kundalini symptoms. At the request of people that have been asking me more about it, I've decided to share more of what I've experienced. And the intention of sharing this is to not only help people relax into this process, but also to encourage other people to share their experience of awakening, their mystical experiences, the energetic component of awakening. There isn't that much thorough information on this, at least in the Western world or even on the internet. And so as we share our real experiences, we're helping build a body of research even into this phenomenon that is not really well understood in the West. So yeah, let's support and love each other in going through this transition of believing I am a body to knowing my true nature, right? And that process, that transition, at least in my case, has been a very physical process. And of course, the way that it plays out for everyone is different depending on a number of factors. So let's encourage each other to share the mystical, share your experiences with energy. Don't be afraid. We're in a time now where it's safe to express these things. We're not going to be punished anymore. That's just a limited belief. That's a memory. That's not reality anymore. So let's support each other in this and remember that as long as any part of us is observing another, claiming their divinity, expressing their mystical experiences, claiming themselves as a mystic, if we put them down, like we're denying ourselves. We're denying ourselves, right? The transition into non-physical consciousness, it can be quite an intense journey. And so I want to create an energy of support. And I will say from my own heart and with much gratitude that anybody that has ever shared something from their real life that they actually lived has been in many cases what helped me through certain times of my life. So when I was going through the most intense parts of my awakening, the Kundalini awakening, there wasn't many people talking about it on the internet. And maybe that's changed by now, but it was just reading Gopi Krishna's books and also hearing Adyashanti give some little tidbits of his experience. He doesn't really focus on that part of his life, for good reason, because he's really holding the energy of just awakening itself, right? He doesn't give so much emphasis to the energetic part, but anything that he did share was greatly appreciated by me because I didn't really have anybody in my life to help me or support me or believe me or anything. So yeah, I support you if you are experiencing something and you have a desire to share, share. It's valuable. So I've talked about this before, and one of the first videos that I put out was about my experience of Kundalini awakening. And so I'll just, I will emphasize different points in this video. But I'll talk about more recent symptoms that I've experienced, because maybe, you might be going through the same thing, and maybe how to relax with them, maybe how to work with them, if there's anything to do at all. So the first thing I'll start with is burning, right? And actually right at this moment, I feel extremely hot. I actually feel like I'm a lobster in a boiling pot. And no matter, I have stones on my legs, I have, I had a gel ice pack on my abdomen, and it just, no matter what I do, the heat is so intense. And of course, Kundalini is a hot energy. It's a transformative energy. It's an alchemical energy that basically destroys any limiting belief. So it works through the chakras, and it will purge the content of the chakras and of the nadis and the meridians, right? Any thought of basically mortality, of, you know, any belief in separation from life. And so, of course, that could be pretty intense depending on the amount of resistance that's in your mind. But the heat can manifest both as a feeling of heat going up the spine. But for me right now, for example, I feel incredible heat in my solar plexus and in my second chakra. I feel it in my thighs, I feel it in my hands, and I feel it in my brain, and I actually feel it in my high heart chakra. That's just how it works, you know. It heats up, it amplifies all the parts of your mind. It amplifies everything unwanted so that your system is motivated to evolve, right? So it will amplify your reactions. It will amplify your limiting beliefs. That's all symptoms of Kundalini awakening, right? Your beliefs might feel so intense to you, right? What used to feel like a little irritation now feels like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, basically, because now you're more sensitive and aware, and now you have something that felt like 10 watts at one point, now it feels like 1,000,000 watts. So burning can manifest as red eyes, as random infections in the eyes, as I used to have water blisters in my mouth, down here, up here. It started at the very back of the tongue. My tongue would get so swollen and my cheeks would have all these blisters because my body was trying to expel the heat. You know, the heat you can literally feel like your brain is just really, really hot and really electric, and your brain can feel like an electric fence. And one of the ways that it manifests in the brain, the heat, is that you can feel something called acid rain, which can mimic neurological disorders, and it feels like neuropathy. And, you know, I'm not a doctor, and so if you feel any of these things and you're concerned about them, then you may want to go have them checked out by a doctor. You have to be your own advocate in life, right? I'm just sharing what I experience, and what I experience is that much of these phenomena, many of the symptoms just disappeared on their own, right? So the blisters disappeared, the eye irritation disappeared. I still have a very hot brain, but what did disappear was the constant eye rolling, right? Because your eyes are connected to your brain. There's so much electricity and energy in the brain that the eyes can roll uncontrollably. Obviously the ears, right? You can hear very, very high-pitched noises. I used to feel like little needles like going like through my ears and through my brain, and what it felt like was an energy channel was almost being like cleared out with a little sword. The burning, right? Because fire is related to our hormones. Every kind of hormonal disorder I had. For a while I had acne. I had random red rashes on my arms and hands, and I had blood work done for autoimmune stuff, and it had nothing. In fact, my blood work has just improved and improved and improved. I used to have Hashimoto's antibodies, which have disappeared. You know, in the throat area, because Kundalini amplifies everything, right? If you are not in truth, if you are not speaking the truth, if you are telling unloving stories about reality, right? If you're basically not telling the truth in some way, your throat might get really, really swollen and really tight. And that's because, you know, we should be grateful for that, because we walk a narrow path, right? If we're here to awaken and be free, when we stray from the path, it's really uncomfortable. It's not just a little slap on the wrist, right? It's like when you veer off the path, meaning when you're out of integrity, when you don't tell the truth, when you don't honor yourself, you feel really beaten up inside, because Kundalini is just trying to get you back here, back in the center. So that can manifest in the throat. And while we're talking about the throat, I will say that even though I had my thyroid and lymph nodes removed from having thyroid cancer 10 years ago, which I believe was also a Kundalini symptom, some of my lymph nodes have grown back, and I have the shadow, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a shadow of a thyroid, which is the energetic beginning of the thyroid coming back into my body. So my body is experiencing incredible amounts of vitality and health. In the heart area and in the chest, well, it's interesting because there's a higher self channel on the left side. It's like this little channel. It's called the higher self channel. I feel kind of a burning and a prickling happening there. I feel, I have felt in the past like bands, like almost like elastic bands of energy, like open and pop around my heart and my high heart. When energy is going through the heart center, you can have such, it can feel like your heart is racing, but it's actually your heart chakra fluttering. So it goes like really, 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 really fast. And if the energy is strong, your physical heart might react to it, right? If you're having like flutters like that, always take your pulse and ask yourself, like, do I haven't, like so many times I felt such an intense fluttering in my heart area, but then I take my pulse and my pulse is normal. So I know it's an energy flutter. It's not actually my heart, but sometimes my physical heart does react to it and it starts to race. And I actually did go to the doctor because my heart was racing so fast that I could hardly speak. It was constantly racing, and she literally put the stethoscope on my heart and she said, like, I don't even know how you're like alive. Your heart is racing so fast for so long. And I basically just left her office because I knew like she wasn't gonna tell me anything useful. And I just figured, like, you know what, I'm just gonna rest this out. And it did also come to an end. I spoke in my prior video about how for months I could not get out of bed because I had such intense dizziness, right? Because it was moving through my brain. It was moving through my sixth chakra, and all of these visions of like past deaths kept coming up. Like I couldn't lift my head off of the pillow because I was so dizzy, and all I would see 24/7 was myself dying. And that just stopped one day. And no matter like what I tried to do, like I tried to like meditate or feel a good energy, like it didn't do anything. It just kept going, which was a very humbling experience in and of itself. So yeah, the burning, right, with the hormone imbalances, it threw my cycle out of balance. I would miss my period for a few months, then it would come back for like twice a week sometimes. I had abnormal pap smears for a short time, which cleared up automatically. I felt a weird scraping sensation on my cervix, which was actually related to a past life I had in Peru. All sorts of strange things. Anything could happen. You just have to assume with Kundalini, like anything and everything can happen. And eventually you just catch on and realize like, okay, all of these things actually tend to dissolve on their own. And ultimately the beautiful lesson that we're learning in a Kundalini awakening is that death is not real. But we're not just knowing that, right? Because you can be ejected out of your body and know your fundamental true nature, but does your body know it? Right? That's what Kundalini is doing. It's like it's cleansing your mind, your body mind, so that your knowledge of what you are is actually anchored in your mind and body. You're not disidentified from your mind and body. No, you're anchored in self-knowledge in the mind and the body. As Kundalini, again, is not about going up and out. You might go up and out at some point of your awakening, but then you'll come back in, and there will be a process of your mind and body integrating this knowledge of what you've seen. So, again, burning can take so many forms. Hormonal imbalance, rashes, boils, blisters, tongue swelling, heart. My lungs were burning the other day. I've never felt that. I jumped out of my car to grab food that I ordered, and as I was just casually walking to the restaurant, all of a sudden I felt this incredible burning in my lungs. And in my mind's eye, I saw my lungs like kind of ablaze, and I had this really forceful cough, just one cough. And it was so painful. And then it just ended. But, you know, I've also felt like all these kind of fireballs of energy come up out of my solar plexus, rise up into my brain, like fire energy going up into the brain that expands in the brain, that makes you feel like literally your head is the size of a planet. And sometimes these things happen like when you're driving. When I'm driving, a lot of times I've experienced what I can only describe as a sudden loss of cognition, or what feels like a catatonic state, kind of like those yogis that have to be cared for and fed. It's almost like you're gonna drool because like there's hardly anything there. That's happened to me when I'm in public, when I'm at a restaurant. And again, what I've learned is that like I've always survived everything, right? The point is like we've survived all of eternity because we can't die. And so your body might learn this in an intense way during a Kundalini awakening, right? And because these experiences can be frightening, but for whatever it's worth, like you never die. So try to relax as much as you can. And also just relax about the fact that sometimes you just can't relax. Sometimes your nervous system is being so tested because there's such an influx of energy in your system that your body has never experienced before, that it's going to have a reaction to it. And so to do your best to just relax yourself to the best of your ability. So, you know, I guess this video is really focusing on burning, which has been a major theme for me in the past 6 months. It's just the burning has just gone up in intensity. Another thing is that I don't sleep. I used to try to take herbs to make myself get some amount of sleep, but I just realized that I just don't need to sleep. And some people don't need to eat, while I actually need to eat a lot. Because when it comes to the burning, like if I intermittent fast or if I forget to eat for too many hours, I get so freaking hot that it's like unbearable. So I actually eat a lot of food, a lot more than probably the average person my size, because I need a constant, like kind of like a constant supply of fuel. And also I need really a lot of deep hydration. And something that I can say that really helps with that is to eat your water, right? Whether it's eating melons, whether it's eating apples. I feel for whatever reason a much deeper sense of hydration when I eat water, in addition to drinking lots of water. But it's interesting because the fact that we produce a hormone called vasopressin, right? When we start to meditate and conduct more electricity, vasopressin helps our body, it engorges our cells with more fluid, making us better able to conduct electricity, which is actual proof that we're wired for God, which is incredibly beautiful. So those are some more of the physical symptoms that I've experienced more recently. And in other areas of symptoms, I would say like extra dimensional symptoms would be, it could be, you know, like in my life, I have had a lot of contact with extraterrestrials, and that's not something that my ego ever desired. I had these ideas that was a distraction, and that was like, whatever. I don't even remember what people used to say about it because I don't listen to what other people say anymore. That might be another symptom of Kundalini awakening. But basically what I've learned about extraterrestrials is like, first of all, they just appear all the time on trails, in my room, like giving me messages, teaching me things. And I'll say, like, we always think that we are the thinker of our thoughts, but we are always receiving ideas from all kinds of beings, right? Depending on the vibration of the mind. And, you know, they're very benevolent and intelligent. And I wouldn't necessarily throw away that whole universe of existence, right, by throwing it aside as a distraction, because I have actually personally met amazing souls, really young people. I'm talking about kids I call them kids, they're like in their early 20s, who were like really, really depressed, like didn't want to be here anymore. And they woke up to their star being nature. And I'm talking, these kids like have never had another incarnation on earth before. This is what I see, at least psychically, when I look at them. And the fact that they had a mystical experience that woke them up to this fact and not only made them joyful and ecstatic, but they're also developing technology and apps to help heal young people with depression. So that whole extraterrestrial narrative might be relevant to your life somehow. It might be relevant to your awakening. It might not be. It might actually be a distraction. It might be something you're attracting into your field because you do want to go somewhere else and you don't actually like being here. You know, it depends on the person. But I don't like blanket statements like, okay, that always means like you're distracted from the real goal, which is to live in like pure consciousness. Not necessarily, at least that's my perspective. You know, just being more and more and more aware of the vibrations of the universe, being acutely aware of how we literally expect things into being. I have very emphatic experiences of creator consciousness. I was driving through the Everglades the other day, and I was literally realizing in real time that I was creating the trees and the owls, and like everything that I was seeing, I like literally felt that I was expecting them into being. I don't know how else to describe that, but that could be like kind of a cognitive symptom of a Kundalini awakening. I see reality as very immaterial, like very light-like a light matrix. It's sparkly. I see I question if the physical eyes even actually see, or if like we just believe that the physical eyes are what see, because when I see people, sometimes I see them as their energy. So I was talking with a friend of mine, and he started to feel like an emotion from childhood, and he started contracting, and I literally saw him disappear in front of my eyes. So I was seeing him as energy. Like I wasn't seeing him as a physical body. I was seeing like in real time more of like an astral reality of like, oh, he's wanting to disappear right now. He's embarrassed, and he literally disappeared. So, you know, some people, like if you're starting to experience stuff like this, if you're starting to see your deceased relatives and your ancestors and feel the orgasmic essence of certain souls in or smell rose oil, because, you know, maybe one of the Magdalens or Mother Mary is around you, right? You start smelling all these amazing smells and seeing things. Like, I just want to energize like a sense of trust and relaxation, and to say like everything that you can imagine is real. Like the Ascended Masters are real, and they're actually very helpful. That's another thing that I hate that blanket statement that that's just a distraction. Like some of the realizations that we get are actually them helping us realize things. And I think to embrace that we have higher resources, and that we are, even though everything is fundamentally myself, I have to say as well that like as I've become my own authority, using non-duality language and using like any other Advaita Vedanta language, like any language from any religion, like using concepts, I know I use the word chakra, but like doing that actually makes me feel tired. It doesn't feel, I can't make myself fit into any of that anymore. I'm just sharing what I actually experience, like for whatever value it has. It's hard for me to make myself fit something. Like it doesn't even compute. It doesn't even make sense to me anymore. But, you know, the Ascended Masters are real, you know, the fairies are real, and blah, blah, blah. Everything is real. And so if you see those things, you're absolutely not going crazy, right? Some people can have like, if you describe this to some people, like people that are afraid of the mind could have a psychotic break. And I imagine that people that actually have Kundalini awakenings have some kind of level of mental strength in the first place, that they probably won't experience that, but who knows? maybe there's a lot of fear in the world, and it's like, that's why I encourage sharing. And I'll tell you, like, I'm an attorney, like, I'm not a charlatan, and I'm not like someone who's trying to sell you like to believe me or follow me. I have a very well-developed rational mind, and I have a very well-developed intuitive mind, and hey, I'm a very normal human being, and like, yeah, this is real for me. This has been my reality for 10 years. And I only recently was I moved to share. And one of my main intentions for sharing this is to help people get through this transition, because we need guides, we need guidance sometimes. Like, it helps us relax and trust the process, because when we don't relax, and trust me, like, because I had cancer, all of these symptoms freaked me out. Okay. And then when I finally realized, like, I have a belief that I'm afraid of life, like my body mind is afraid of the energy of God. And so to decide for myself, like, okay, like, it's not that Kundalini is inherently disorienting, but I have beliefs within myself that Kundalini is bumping up against. And really a deep fear for many of us, and this is the reason why some people are still putting down others who share and claim the fact that they are mystics and claiming their divinity. Like, we're rejecting our divinity. Like, the whole point of awakening is to actually be it, right? And not be afraid to claim it. And I do my best to explain how that actually plays out in everyday human life, what that actually looks like, what being the truth looks like, at least what it's looked like for me. So it's important, like, that we share, because a lot of stuff can happen. I remember for a while I would wake up, well, not wake up, because I never really slept, but I would like be aware of certain astral realms that are at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would hear walkie-talkies, like, in my not even from this decade. I remember I woke up when I was in my room one early morning, and I started hearing an ambulance walkie-talkieing or radioing another ambulance saying, like, oh, we have Rosalind, seems to be a myocardiac infarction, like. And it sounded like an old movie, like the 50s. So, like, I was picking up a vibration from some other time, which also showed me, like, every vibration exists forever. And, like, they're all out there in the universe, and, like, we can pick up on anything. That was just a really random thing, but I would start to pick up on all this information in the ethers. And so that's just part of it, right? That's part of the psychedelic part of it. The reality is that when you, and it might not be true for everyone. Like, some teachers that I really respect, they don't really have, their psychic stuff didn't really come online, or they didn't, which, by the way, being psychic doesn't really have any value, because it can, if you want to use it to help people understand their subconscious. Which is one of my gifts, and actually one of my symptoms of Kundalini awakening is that I actually visually see my subconscious and other people's subconscious as a very vivid motion picture or representation. I see it very clearly, so I can help people heal their subconscious. But for some people, like, none of this is relevant, and it's not as trippy for some people. It might scare them, and it might not be their style. It might not be relevant to their manifestation, to their existence. Right, we're all so different, but my experience has been quite intense, and so I wanted to put it out there for anybody that might be experiencing anything like this. My hair would fall out for a while. My hair like changed textures a million times. I'll make another video at some point explaining some more of the oddities that I've experienced, but I just wanted to put some more information out there to support anybody who is going through a Kundalini awakening, and that, I support you and your experience, and I find it valuable, again, that we share our experiences so that we can form a community and give like information to help people build research about this, So that's my message for today, and I hope you have a beautiful day.